Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome once again to the YouTube live stream here at RaceFace.Pro. We are here officially moving onwards to round 5 of our RaceFace.Pro GT3 championship for season 21. We're at Nürburgring today. Super interesting track, one that can be complicated for most, but if you can take this track right and you can tackle it with the correct mindset, you can make this track your absolute undercover boss for trying to get a couple of points. So very good track to be watching some great entertainment on. My name is Tristan Herbs, commentating you straight through tonight's race, and like we mentioned, we are on the fantastic inaugural Nürburgring here in Germany, and just alongside the bigger Nordschleife. So very keen to be back at this track. We actually haven't been at Nürburgring in quite a long time here at RaceFace.Pro. It's been a good amount of time since we've been here on the German circuit. One, like we mentioned, can test you, but if you do it right, it can be an extremely fun track that can grant you a lot of points. So we'll have to see how everybody takes it today. But a couple of people in the virtual grandstand, Johan Pretorius saying, let's go. Good luck to David van Veek. So if you guys don't know, David van Veek, one of our new runner-ups to season 21. Oh, and he's actually got a nice livery now, DS Neon. And he's actually been rocking a standard orange livery now, pulling up with an almost tiger stripe style livery to show that dominance. He's been showing some incredible track pace for this season, and now already hitting into round 5. It is looking to be quite a good one. I mean, he's going to have to try and keep it up as hard as he can, but we do believe in him. He's had some incredible performance over the past couple of races, so he should be able to do it again without a doubt. Everybody else, though, still patrolling decently around circuit. Currently, Neil Swartz, who we've seen quite familiarly up into our top 10 and our top 5, sitting in pole right now, 155.635, as he sits pacing around track. Ronde van der Walt, his teammate in the McLaren 720S, currently a 10th away from him. So lots of rivalry going on between the Pandacity boys over here. Let's hope they can keep it nice and clean tonight. Sean Loureiro in 3rd position for the GSRT team. He's also doing an incredible job this season so far. We're calling, well, not calling, he's been given the nickname for this season of racing as the Comeback King, or the Comeback Warrior, just due to how many times he's fallen all the way back off on the grid and managed to pull that car all the way back up to top 10 or even top 5 circumstances, and actually a podium as well already this season. So he's doing an incredible job so far, seeing if he can potentially wrap the Mustang around Nürburgring here and bring in another great result. Currently sitting in 4th, Chris Collison, his fellow Mustang driver in the Stinger Racing Ford, sitting in 5th position now, currently 4/10 away. Jean-Ray Buerta has taken pole though with a 155.475, so incredible stuff there. Kyle Henderson, the Treehouse Works Racing driver, that's actually a new entry to our Treehouse Works Racing. He's going to be joining Anton Lammers, Conrad Martin, which is a nice little bunch of guys to be racing with, and the only Ferrari now. The Treehouse Works Racing guys were all the McLarens, but now with Badenhorst, Lammers, and Martin have now been accompanied by a Ferrari 296. So good to compare pace. Gerard Pretorius, someone who we also saw fighting extremely hard last week at Zolder, is now here once again to put on the pressure and potentially bring in himself some nice podium positions and a potential good points range for this week. Ron van der Walt, though, up into the sub 155s now. 154.9. Currently 5/10 faster than Jean-Ray Buerta. So that's quite a big gap right now that the drivers are going to have to pace on and follow onwards. But let's see how it goes. Neil Swartz currently 4.5 up. Oh, makes a mistake and decides to pull it in. Jean-Ray Detroit currently 4/10 up on his lap time. Let's see if this could potentially be a better lap for him. We'll come back to him though. And everybody else still trying to find those lap times as they patrol around circuit. We do have someone who's 7/10 up. That's Hunty Myberg, as he wraps it around through the mid-sector of the track, and he could potentially be looking at a much bigger of a difference of lap time. Currently 7/10 faster already. Vessel Voda 1.7 seconds faster on his current lap time of a 159.597. So this could potentially be a nice increase for him, but he does have to keep up the pace or else he will begin to lose out. Hunty Myberg 9/10 up now, sitting in 20th. This is going to set him quite high up actually, potentially up to 12th or 11th around about. We'll have to see if he can hold it though. He is 8/10 up now, so he's losing a little bit of time, but still carrying a monumental amount of pace onto the back straight now. Will Hunty Myberg be able to do it for another time around here. 5 minutes left of qualifying. And just trying to wrap that McLaren around track. 7.5 tenths up on his lap time. So it is going to be a definite improvement. But how much of an improvement is the key factor? Almost 2 tenths gained in the final chicane over there. Coming around the final corner, he is a whole second up now. Where is this going to put Hunty Myburgh from 20th? Crossing the line, 1.3 seconds up to 9th position. So a massive jump for Hunty Myburgh there, doing an incredible lap time. He's going to be happy with that. But Cara Pretorius currently about 3 tenths up. Actually dropped down very much so. Got a poor exit onto the back straight. Lost all of it. Down to about half a tenth up on his best time now. But he may be able to gain it through the chicane here. So let's see how it goes for him. Climbing through the chicane. It's unfortunately not faster. So he's going to lose out there. Jonathan Chislett currently 6 tenths up on his best. So we'll have to see where he pulls in through. David van Veek 1.5 seconds faster than his last. So that's going to put him into a really good running around about the 56.5 mark. The 55.5 mark, actually, sorry. And that's really going to boost him up towards our top 10 mark. Here we go. Coming into the final chicane, 1.6 seconds up on his original lap time. Coming out of the final chicane, he does maintain the speed. And through our final corner, will it be an improvement for David van Veek in the DS Neom team? 1.6 seconds up on his lap time, 20th, all the way up until 8th position. Similar move to what Hunty Myburgh did, and he's going to be happy about that one. He does still have 4 minutes though, so will he be able to pull in another lap? Anton Lammers currently 4 tenths up on his lap time. Sean Loureiro 7 tenths up in the first sector. That is an incredible amount of speed gained. And to think he's currently on a 155.9. Where is this going to put Sean Loureiro? This has to be somewhere in the podiums if he can keep this up. Currently 7 tenths up on his lap time. And he's only just gone through the Schumacher S's. Not even on the back straight yet. And 8 tenths of a lap time gained already. So this is really looking good for him. Herman Percival did snatch into first position though. 154.887. Again, rocking the FCK Cancer Apex Titans Racing livery. And an incredible livery, one of definite sightseeing. But 9 tenths up now for Sean Loureiro with 3 minutes left of qualifying into the final chicane. Will he carry it all or will he lose a little bit of speed? And he actually gains some time there, doing an incredible job. Now 1 second up on his original lap time. So this is going to be a monumental lap. 154.9 potentially. Even further actually, this could be pole for Sean Loureiro. And indeed it is a 154.7. Is an incredibly fast lap time, 1 tenth faster than Herman Percival. And my goodness, what an absolute lap right there from Sean Loureiro. He's going to be absolutely stoked about that one. 2 minutes left to go. It doesn't give that much room for people to try and come back. So now John Dutoit also 2 tenths up on his lap time. It will bump him up slightly, but I don't think he's going to be able to gain on any of the drivers in front of him. But my goodness, this is a tight grid. Loads of fighting up and down. Cara Pretorius currently a 10th up on his best lap time, but still sitting throughout the mid sector. Actually, no, just still in the first sector now, starting his lap time. So almost 2 tenths up already in his first couple of corners. So this could also be a good improvement from Cara Pretorius. He is struggling though. You can see it. Johan Bevere's 3 tenths up currently in the Ferrari. This could boost him all the way up to 10th past David van Veek if he can keep it up. And we'll have to see how he goes with that. Johnny Dutoit though now 2 tenths up on his original lap time. He is, absolutely buckles on the chicane. That is going to be an invalid lap time. And that is super unfortunate to see. Pulls off to the side. It's not going to be enough time to get out and set another lap. So he's going to have to settle for wherever he has finished. Anton Lammers, though, in 7th position now. Currently 1.5 tenths up on the back straight for the Treehouse Works Racing team. And this could potentially be a bit of an increase for him. Where will he land up? But having a good look again at our virtual grandstand. Lynette van der Walt says good luck to Ron van der Walt. So he's definitely doing an incredible job right now in 3rd. And Kaylin Mauer, one of the fellow sim racing enthusiasts, saying good luck, guys. And wishing everybody luck as they venture on here in the cold night dark circuit here. 10 degrees Celsius at Nürburgring. But thankfully it is going to be escalating in terms of daylight, because we're starting at 5 a.m. We'll end the race a little bit closer towards daylight. So we'll have to see how it goes. Anton Lammers up into 4th position. That's an incredible running for him. One of his best qualifying positions of the year. And everybody else also. Jan Rebuerta 4 tenths up on his current lap time. And he's only just started his 2nd sector. So we'll have to see where he lands up, because this is looking to be a really fast lap time as well. we'll keep an eye out for him. Kyle Henderson, 4.5 tenths up, and coming through onto the back straight now. This could definitely boost him all the way up to around the top 10 mark. So looking good for him. Ulrich Diago, though, 5 tenths up as well. Coming through with a very spicy McLaren livery. Very, very intricate and detailed livery. Definitely one of note. Gianni Roberta now onto our back straight is 6 tenths up on his time. That is going to be a major improvement from the 155.4 he's currently got set. I mean, we're looking at a 154.8. This could potentially be a podium position here for the likes of Jean-Ray Berta. Comes through the final chicane. He is 7 tenths up, and this is really starting to formulate into a great exit to a good lap. And here he comes onto the back straight. Better exit, 8 tenths up. Is it going to be enough for the podium? Comes across the line, and it's up to second position for Jean-Ray Berta, and he sets the exact same time as Sean Lerrero, 154.755. Absolutely no differentiation between the two. You can see it on your screens now, 0.000 seconds of a split between the top two. My goodness, that is competitive. And everybody else, though, no faster lap times currently. Johan Verveers does have 1.5 tenths up. David van Beek 3 tenths up now. So he could potentially be boosting himself up from the top 10. We'll be keeping an eye out for him. But unfortunately, nobody else on track having a better lap time. Vessel Voda also currently out. But he was 2 tenths down. Yep, he's still about a tenth down on this better lap time. So it does not look like it's going to be a glorious one for him. But Johan Verveers comes through the final chicane here. 3.5 tenths up. Sitting in 9th currently. This is going to boost him up to 6th position. He might just chip in front of Jean-Ray du Toit. Let's see how this is going to go for the Ferrari driver. Coming across the line. Does just boot in front. And a phenomenal drive from him. David van Beek still coming on through the final chicane now. 4.5 tenths up. The lap is still valid. Okay, dropped quite a lot, unfortunately, due to that chicane. Actually, no, never mind. Good braking into there. 5 tenths up. Coming into the next corner. This is going to be a sub 55. And where is this going to put David van Beek? Up into 5th position. So an incredible jump from 10th to 5th. What an absolutely wild qualifying session that we just saw. And John Roberts to say, I threw that one away. No, you didn't. You are literally in second with 0 differentiation. But we'll see you guys on the starting grid after a short break. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the pinnacle moment has officially arrived. We've got all cars, 23 of them, lined up on the grid, ready to go for round 5 here of the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship Season 21, round 5 at the Nürburgring. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see action last night. We had a little bit of a terrible rainstorm here in Joburg North, and it did cause us not to be able to perform last night and race in this event, so super unfortunate there. But we do have great insight because this is a notorious track that we're all used to. A couple of people, though, still in the virtual grandstand, like we mentioned. Jean-Ray Berta saying, I threw that one away. Definitely not a throwaway. If he got a thousandth of a second faster, he would have been starting in pole. But just know that Jean-Ray Berta and Sean Lerrero are going to be fighting it out to the absolute end here in this race. Woohoo Studio saying, let's go Rowan 99, here hella gas. So supporting on Ron van der Walt, number 4 car. And this is going to be an incredible one to watch. Onto the heady cam, you can see the inaugural size grid here that we've got going on. And this is definitely going to be a one to watch, a one to definitely note. So keep an eye out because we've got 30 seconds left before our formation lap. And as you can see, the grid is tight. It's ready to show flames tonight for round 5. And potentially rocket around track here for one of the best races that we could see. Nürburgring is notorious for a reason. It is one of the more challenging tracks, but it is also one of the most action-packed, entertaining, and technical circuits that you can find on the GT3 calendar. That is why you see so many cars pushing it to their absolute extents, trying to make it work. Somebody gets booted to the pit lane for not finishing their car setup on time. And that's Hansi Meyerberg. I think he did that on purpose just to not interfere with the actual race. Hunty Myberg, one of our number one top tier admin here at RaceFace.Pro, as everybody begins to pull away. So Sean Herrero is going to be holding off from Jean-Ray Buerta, coming down into the pinnacle concertina effect turn 1 here at the Nürburgring. This is going to be an extremely intense race, specifically for the front two powerhouses. We've got a car that boasts absolute top speed compared to a car that doesn't boast top speed but boasts an enormous amount of cornering speed. This is the battle of Ferrari versus Red Bull, like we've seen in F1. The powerhouse in 2010 Ferrari with the much faster top line speed compared to the cornering speed Red Bull. This is going to be it for the Ford versus Porsche, and this is going to be a plenty-filled action race to be watching. You should see all your drivers right now with their rear brake lights completely illuminated. That's because the drivers will be performing something known as brake dragging. So if you don't know what brake dragging is, it's the action of where a driver holds the throttle down on the car but also holds the brakes down in order to start warming up those brake pads, which then transfers heat towards the inner rim of the tire, and that also transfers towards the actual tire rubber itself, allowing the tire to get nice and warm when it comes to race start, where any of those action-packed sensors are going to come into play into your first phases of the race. You do not want to be sitting with cold tires where your opponent behind is on nice 65 to 70 degree tires, because they will pace you on corners. They will have better control. They will have better traction than you. So that's exactly what you do not want to have, is icy cold tires and icy cold brakes. So you gotta have them all with that, but you also don't want to overcook them. It's very hard to do that with brake dragging, but you can actually overcook your brakes well over to 900 degrees. Now, depending on the event, specifically for your endurance races, this could really negatively affect your brake performance, especially for long-term braking. On shorter races such as this, an hour and 20 minutes is still a good stint for drivers to be racing, but it won't heavily impact drivers from holding the brakes in the entry part of the race. These are brake set 1 for your faster sprint style races. Your brake set 2 gets used for your endurance style races. So we'll have to see how it's going to happen. But onto our back straight now, you can see a couple of drivers swerving. Swerving actually doesn't work in your GT3 cars. It's not like a Formula 1 car where it can carry a lot of speed and put pressure on those tires. It actually does cool down the tires by swerving and allowing airflow to go into the brakes. So that's what you'll see. Most of your front runners staying completely still and just holding on that brake as hard as they can. Let's see if we can maybe get a rear side shot of our drivers coming through with their brake lights, trying to find a rear light shot. You can see there's the brake lights being illuminated. They are obviously also on due to it being a slightly darker race. 6 a.m. here in Germany, but it is going to start to lighten up. After around 20 minutes, we're looking at about 7:30 in the morning, which should around about be light time. So we're going from dark to light here, whereas we see at circuits such as Watkins Glen, light to dark. So this time, a bit of a switch around, but onto our helicam for the start of this race. Sean Herrero, Jean-Ray Buerta holding it off with Herman Percival behind them. They're waiting for that green flag. There's the start finish. The green light's been administered. Jean-Ray Buerta gets a better pull-off than the Mustang, but the Mustang will utilize that top speed. But Herman Percival has stuck his nose in on the inside with his Honda. Ron van der Walt also trying to find space on the outside. Gets the dive, but does get blocked off by Herman Percival. And it looks like Jean-Ray Buerta is going to hold the lead here. An incredible launch for him coming into the start of this race, and manages to get the jump on the limping Mustang, who didn't get the pull-off. The Porsche having a much faster acceleration, as well as the Honda. That's why you see both of them absolutely striving, and the Mustang really struggling on race pull-off. But thankfully, still managing to keep in the top 3. But Jean-Ray Buerta using his chance now on the slightly faster car in the midsection of the track, where turning is your main priority, using the ultimate speed of that Porsche, because he knows once he gets to that back straight, the Mustang is going to hunt him down like a wild fox. So he has to be careful, but Herman Percival is all over the back of him. Better acceleration, better exit speeds. We might be seeing a lot of change-up coming to the start and finish of this race, but so far looking good. The rest of the grid seems to have survived, with only one car backing off to the back, which is Hunty Myberg starting off in our pit lane. Very impressed with the Pro-Am grid. Absolutely no contact or flaws in our starting procedure over there into turn 1. Everybody keeping it nice and clean. But I think what also contributes is the fact that turn 1 here at Nürburgring is extremely wide, allowing drivers to utilize all that space in case of someone braking late and possibly pulling that car out a little bit wider than they usually should. But now onto the back straight, Jean-Ray Boerta has maintained that gap, and he's really going to have to try and use this as an advantage. Sean Loureiro is under pressure from the Honda behind him, so he's going to have to hold on for that. But Ron van der Walt is also seeing the fight, and he's saying, I'm going to get involved in this, because this right now is free space that he could potentially take up. And Lloyd Gething saying, Percy for the win. Herman Percival is putting on so much pressure right now onto the big Mustang, but he does have the lurking McLaren behind him. David van Beek still sits in 5th position. Oh, and we have some contact, unfortunately. And flashing back 10 seconds to see what happened there. That is Jean-Louis de Toit and Johan Verveers. Late dive. Jean Verveers does not see him and unfortunately turns in. But thankfully not too much damage on both of those cars. But Johan Verveers did unfortunately sacrifice a couple of positions. 6th down to 13th position. So he's going to have to try and recover that. Thankfully, like we mentioned, not too much damage on either of the cars. So they can continue pushing. Jonathan Chislett, though, does have pressure from Conrad Martin, the Treehouse Works racing driver. Is not going to make this one easier. Stop, go, 30-second penalty, 3 minutes into this race. Chiara Pretorius tries to pull the early pit maneuver, the undercut of the century, like we see Jean-Ray Boerta doing, and he gets a stop-go from either speeding in or out of the pit lane. Super unfortunate there for Chiara Pretorius. He's not going to be happy about that one, but one thing to note is that it is the start of the race. It's only been 4 minutes, and so he does have time to potentially recover from that fall. Jean-Ray Boerta, the person who we always see undercutting, is actually in a bit of a different situation this week. Not sitting in like the mid-pack back towards where he sits in slightly dirtier air. Now sitting completely in the front, clean air in front of him. Not actually having to try and pull an undercut. Unless he starts to feel too much pressure from Sean Loureiro and feels like he's losing out on lap times, he could pull it in and potentially pull the undercut maneuver. So we'll see what happens for him there. But for now, still holding on tightly with Sean Loureiro slowly creeping in as Herman Percival has had to back down with Ron van der Walt putting pressure on him, who's now made the position switch. And into 3rd position comes Ron van der Walt, the blistering fast McLaren, using that mid-engine rotation, fighting off the Honda with the slightly faster acceleration. So we'll have to see how it's going to go for these two, but I have a feeling this is going to be a constant fight up and down for the number 99 and the number 44. Up onto the inside once again, Herman Percival finding grip, but now the corner flips for the next corner, actually manages to do a bit of a switch around, and Herman Percival now has the inside line for the next corner. Very smart overtaking over there, allows himself to get a good run onto the next mini straight, and now doesn't actually have too much of a threat from Ron van der Walt. He will have to block the outside, but thankfully, Ron van der Walt almost diving in late. That could have been a crucial incident over there, but thankfully everybody performing well and doing so as they please. But David van Beek is seeing all of the action happening in front of him, and he might potentially begin to creep up on the back of Ron van der Walt. He's fighting very hard with Herman Percival, and he could be shedding a lot of speed per lap over here. Last lap, Ron van der Walt did a 155.2, and David van Beek 156.3. So it's still catching up. Obviously, most of the fighting happened for Ron van der Walt after they passed the finish line. So I think it's going to be better to monitor the next lap's inputs in terms of lap time, because currently Jean-Louis de Toit further behind. David van Beek is also just trying to catch back up, but Ron van der Walt is right on the back. And now Jean-Louis Boerta is under pressure because he's got the much faster straight line car honing in on behind him. Where will he put the Porsche to block off? He sits still on the outside line, knowing well that Sean Loureiro, the experienced driver behind, is not going to dive into on the inside on an extremely fast chicane, but he might grab the better exit here and carry that Mustang speed onto the main straight. Let's see what he does, putting loads of pressure onto the back of Jean-Louis Boerta, and thankfully the Porsche's acceleration not doing too well there, because now the Mustang using its top end speed and almost getting around the outside, now flips back to the inside, but now it's the outside for the next corner. And that's why the Nürburgring, one of the more entertaining tracks for passes and overtakes, because the corner inside line is continuously flipping due to the amount of differentiation we see with these corners, and it creates for loads of great racing and strategy pulling for drivers trying to overtake each other. Anton Lammers pulls in to get his first pit stop done. Jano du Toit still in a bit of no man's land right now. Thankfully, Jonathan Chislett not catching up to him, so he's got a bit of clean air, but Jonathan Chislett is going to start to pull on to the back of him. Now, the likes of David van Veek pulling onto our back straight. Where is he going to come through? This is not back straight, apologies. But looking at last laps, we can definitely see it now. Ron van der Walt, last lap 157.1. David van Veek, last lap 155.7. So almost 2 seconds faster than the driver in front of him due to the fighting happening. So this could potentially be bad for the likes of Ron van der Walt and Herman Percival, because it will turn into a 3-car fight as David van Veek begins to close in. But behind David van Veek, guess who's caught up? That's correct, it's Jano du Toit, who's now on the backside of the McLaren. So this is going to be constant fighting up and down the grid. The battle for first comes all the way down to 6th position with relatively small gaps in between all of them. Biggest of 1.2 seconds between Herman Percival and Sean Loureiro. So this is going to be an interesting one to watch. But Janro Buerta still holding off on Sean Loureiro. He feels the pressure after every lap, and he's actually felt it too much and has decided to pull in for the undercut. Is it going to work this time for the Porsche driver, or should he have stayed out and utilized that front running pack with no dirty air whatsoever? But now it's too late already. Pulled into the pit lane and going for the undercut strat. Let's see what happens for him. And now Sean Loureiro takes that lead that he started off with on the start-stop grid. But now Herman Percival is going to close in on him. Fastest lap of a 154.955 for Herman Percival. A lot faster than Sean Loureiro in front. But that's because he has eased off pressure from Ron van der Walt. So we'll have to see how it does land up for him, because he still has Ron there. He's not dipping off just too far. So we'll have to see how that goes. But apologies, ladies and gentlemen, I actually realized I forgot to do our starting grid order. So without further ado, let's go through our after 10 minutes grid here for round 5. Sean Loureiro sits in P1, followed by Herman Percival in 2nd. Ron van der Walt sits in 3rd position, followed by David van Veek in 4th. Jano du Toit sits in 5th, followed by Janro Buerta. Now down into 6th, well actually 12th. And then 6th is Jonathan Chislett, followed by 7th is Kyle Henderson. Then Wessel Voda in 8th position, followed by Rian Fourie in 9th position. Alvin Preem comes into 10th, Hansi Meiberg in 11th, Janro Buerta in 12th position, Francois Buerta in 19th, so he's pitted. 13th for Neil Swartz, 14th for Conrad Martin, 15th for Roy Tiaga, 16th for Chris Collison, 17th for Anton Lammers, then 18th for Henk Pieterse, 19th for Francois Buerta, and then 20th for the likes of Rob van der Heever, followed by Johan Verveers, who has also pitted after he got spun around there on turn 1, I think it was lap 2 or 3, has decided now to come in and serve his first pit stop. Gerard Pretorius has served his stop-go penalty. He is in 22nd position, and he is quite a margin behind the rest of the grid, so he's not going to be happy about that one. But like we said, it was the start of the race. He is going to have all of this time to now try and recover. The best part is that it wasn't a stop-go towards your end phases of the race, where you do not have any form of time to try and recover from your mistake. He does have the time, and Lawrence Badenhorst, unfortunately, suffering a disconnect, is no longer in our racing session here for tonight. So super unfortunate to see from the Treehouse Works Racing driver. But we move on. Treehouse Works Racing does still have 2 cars racing in tonight's race, so we'll see how it goes for all of them as they keep on pursuing around track, doing an absolutely incredible job at it as well. But everybody else still doing a phenomenal job to keep the car on track. Rian Fourie currently the battle for 10th as he pursues around track with the likes of Hansi Meiberg, who used to be on the same team together, but now hybrid tryhards for the likes of Hansi Meiberg, no longer the likes of Team Tryhard Racing. So a little bit of a change up and a switch up for all of them as they continue to push on for the 2025 season. But we'll see how all of that does escalate towards the end phases of this year. Kyle Henderson, though, in 8th position, and this is Wessel Voda, apologies. So great recovery drive actually from Wessel Voda. I believe he started well off down towards the back of the grid, and now bringing it back quite nicely up into your top positions, and he's definitely going to be happy about that one. I can absolutely imagine that. Wessel Voda, a driver who's had a little bit of a rough season so far in terms of finishing positions, and now sitting comfortably in the top 8, and usually actually penalties as well as what he does sometimes suffer with. But now sitting in the top 8, he is going to be happy about this one. He has to just keep it on and continue to push as hard as he possibly can. Kyle Henderson just a little bit further in front of him is going to be holding off from the Mercedes driver as hard as he possibly can. Jonathan Chislett, though, is still sitting in the likes of 6th position, trying to chase down on the fellow Lamborghini driver of Jean Detroit, but it is quite a big margin of gap between the two, currently sitting at 6.5 seconds between the two Lamborghini drivers. So quite a big margin of gap between the two. Sean Herrera, though, is maintaining that 1.3 second gap to Herman Percival. Herman just not able to get as close as he could possibly want to behind the likes of Sean Herrera, and Ron van der Walt is also not letting go, and David van Wyk is actually closing in very tightly now to Ron van der Walt. So we could potentially see a overtaking position here for the battle for third as the grid has started to slowly dissipate. Looking at our track map, though, you can see with Nürburgring being one of your biggest circuits, look at how empty the one side of the track currently is. The back straight section with absolutely nobody on it as of the current time being. And as you can see over there, our number 23 driver in first, Sean Herrera, now catching up to Gerard Pretorius, who is sitting in last position after those stop-go penalties he had. So already starting to catch up to the lap drivers, and this is quite a monumental feat with about 20 minutes, almost 20 minutes in of racing. And oh, Gerard Pretorius almost losing the rear there of that Ferrari, drifting it around track. And Kyle Henderson also still sitting up further in your top 10. But the main fighting point right now that we're watching out for is David van Wyk and Ron van der Walt. The gap between these two is absolutely crucial. Half a second differentiates the two. Exactly the same machinery. The only thing that separates them is the driver and the setup. The setup not mattering too much. It all comes down to driver skill as to who can persuade the McLaren to send it around track as hard as possible. And we'll have to see how it comes down to that, with the last hour coming in, hour and 6 minutes until our race hits checkered flag, and we'll continue to push up until the end of that. But the Diaz Neon team, one of the newer teams now to the grid after David van Wyk decided to pop a nice livery on, is doing incredibly well. Angelique Berta says go Percy, and Darth Zede saying go Jeanre. So a couple of people in the grandstand cheering on all of their favorite drivers. Herman Percival currently sitting in second, and then Jeanre Berta a little bit further down in 12th, but that is also majorly due to the fact that he did perform a pit stop relatively early. Starting a runner of the pit stop drivers right now, sitting in 12th, and 6 seconds behind him is Neil Swart, who actually was one of the first drivers to come in and serve that pit stop. So lots of the drivers with their different pit stop strategies coming in now to make a difference for the end of this race. But still, Ron van der Walt is building a slightly more passive gap, now 8 tenths to the likes of David van Wyk coming towards the end of this race. Alvin Preem and Hansi Mayberg still fighting each other out to the absolute limits. Currently 3 tenths differentiating the two drivers. So not much leeway and bandwidth for these two to fight each other out. And coming from the same team, they also aren't going to want to, ruin each other's races here. So we'll have to see how close and tight the fighting is going to be. Chris Collison, one of our favorites in the virtual grandstand, currently sitting down in 15th position. And he's got Eric Diago behind him in 16th position. Conrad Martin is sitting in 14th, now changing to a pink Treehouse Works Racings. I believe he was in a white and red, and now finally putting on a different color livery after quite some time, and coming on to change it up a little bit, and actually in quite the familiar RaceFace style colors of the pink and black, the pink, purple, black. So almost looks like he's rocking a RaceFace merch over here on his actual car, which is quite a cool thing if you ask me. But Ron Ferry in the actually very similar liveries right now. Rian Ferry and Conrad Martin, 2 different teams, 2 different cars, but rocking relatively the same liveries style over here. Pandasty Infiltrate Furious 2 got a new livery, but it's almost like a full blacked out Porsche livery with a couple of pink accents. So it's very clean, if I might add. It's very nice and clean, and it's got a lot of speed. As you can see, Vessel Voda is feeling the pressure from Rian Ferry as they are squabbling it out on track. And Jonathan Chislett, a little bit further up in front, is right on the back of Kyle Henderson. The two of these people have been fighting their absolute hearts out of here for the last, I would say, 6 or 7 laps. Constant pressure from the likes of Kyle Henderson and the likes of Jonathan Chislett. So incredible job from all of them as they continue to pursue it around track. Sean Loureiro sits in first, though, still with a 2.9 second gap currently to Herman Percival. So Herman just not getting the distance that he would like to the likes of Sean Loureiro, and almost starting to close in up on him, but he's just not getting there. And with the time slowly starting to creep away, he is going to have to start to make this count, because we are about to break through our 1 hour mark left of racing. And if you know anything about racing, that 1 hour dissipates incredibly fast. So the longer you wait, the lower the chances of you making that overtake. So Herman Percival has got to put his head down, try and push on behind the big Mustang driver, and potentially make an overtake position. David van Veek is making no short use of his time he's got, because he is trying to squabble at any time possible to try and put Ron van der Walt under pressure and potentially force a mistake from the fellow McLaren driver. And David van Veek, we know, seen him from the couple of races he's been in here at RaceFace. He's a fast driver, he's aggressive, but he does know how to pass. He's not someone who we've seen trying to pass, forcing himself into small closing doors. He does make a pass stick without endangering the driver that he versus. So very good characteristic to have here in GT3 racing, especially in your much bigger cars. Some of the guys, including me, actually coming from the likes of Formula 1 racing, particularly the F1 games before they turned to absolute garbage. Now moved to GT style racing. Formula 1 cars, much smaller cars in terms of actual track width and depth, but the racing is also a lot closer in cars like that, where you can really pull up alongside each other and fight each other very tightly through corners. GT3 cars, obviously these are real life road racing cars turned into race cars, so you know they've got regular road car properties. You know, the McLaren 720S in real life, it's not a small car. It's quite a big car, and it's quite wide as well, so you have to take note of that when it comes to the overtaking in ACC, because these cars are not small, they're not narrow, they're not lighter than your F1 cars, they're also a lot heavier, but that also just adds to the phenomenal racing. But I mean, currently Kyle Henderson and Jonathan Chislett doing an incredible job, these two. Kyle Henderson, Jonathan Chislett putting loads of pressure on each other. And now actually Kyle, 1.3 seconds of a gap, the biggest gap he's had so far from his competitor Jonathan Chislett. So a little bit of breathing room there. Currently a big fight though, the squabble for 10th, 9th actually, as Rian Ferree, the battle for 8th actually. And that goes all the way down to Alvin Preem in 11th, as 4 cars, all of them training on behind each other. Rian Ferree gets a better exit than the Merc, trying to find a gap around the outside potentially, having the better acceleration, but not the better top speed. The Merc holds the inside line and potentially, almost gets dived by Hunty Myberg. A little bit of a love tap on the back of the Porsche there, just to let him know that he's got people in front of him and behind him, and he has to be cautious of that. But now, Rian Ferree putting in every dose of pressure, and now pushes that car to the absolute limit, taps the likes of Vessel Voda, thankfully concedes the position back. I think that was a little bit of a forced entry overtake, and in any case he could not get the slide to stop and had to concede position. So super unfortunate for him. But now tailing on behind him, Hunty Myberg, Alvin Preem, both of them putting loads of pressure on the back of this Porsche, who is trying to fight for his life and pull up into 8th position. Jean Roberto not actually too much further behind them. The starting car with 1 pit stop left to go, and he is starting to pace as fast as he can. 154.9 as his last fastest, almost a second faster, actually well over a second faster than Alvin Preem in 11th position. So he is catching lap by lap, and we could potentially see an overtake coming into the next sections of the track. Incredible stuff though, as everybody else still pursues it around track, and everybody's still doing an incredible job. Rob van der Heever, the GSRT driver, currently under pressure from Johan Verveers, and Johan having a bit of a struggle towards the start of the race after having a small incident with the likes of Cara Pretorius. and now a little bit further on behind after pulling his pit stop, but everybody else still doing incredibly well. Garrett Pretorius is sitting still down in 22nd position. He is sitting just behind the likes of Sean Loureiro, not able to be overtaken by Herman Percival. So that also just shows you that Garrett Pretorius is not a slow driver at all, just unfortunately getting chucked with the circumstances of having to get that drive-through, that stop-go penalty done, and that has really negatively impacted where he currently sits on track. Obviously, one pit stop done for him does make it a little bit easier situation, because he is currently sitting in a pack of double pit stop runners that need to still do 2 pit stops. So, you know, he's not going to be clogged like this forever, but for the time being, he does just have to hold on and try and find as much gap as possible. Ulrich de Jager pulls in to get his first pit stop done, his final pit stop done, sorry, of the day. With 57 minutes left of racing, he is going to be pulling it to the absolute final limit over here for tonight's racing. So incredible job. You can see how the strategies play differently for everybody as they continue to send it around track. Wessel Voda still sitting, this is Jean de Toit, sorry, Wessel Voda still sitting in 11th, but he's actually lost out to Rian Fourie and Hansi Maiberg. Hansi Maiberg getting in front of all of them now, up into 8th, and Rian Fourie trying to find the gap on him, and then Wessel Voda a little bit further down in 10th, and Alvin Preem in 11th position, just trying to catch up now. So obviously a little bit of a tussle happened between this middle pack, and they could not find the time to potentially get around each other. But now everybody's still sending around track. As you can see, loads of people starting new laps, as Loureiro just starting his next lap, sorry, and then the likes of Herman Percival. But I believe Garrett Pretorius just losing out now to Herman Percival, as well as Ron van der Walt. So a little bit of a mistake happening there from him, and he's had to concede 2 positions. Now behind him is the likes of Jean de Toit. Now that's David van Wyk, sorry, who's actually holds the fastest lap of the session. David van Wyk 154.2. What on earth did David van Wyk do to get a 154.2? That is an incredibly fast lap, and that's faster than any of the qualifying laps that happened in the session prior. How on earth has David van Wyk set a 154.2 when Sean Loureiro also 154.280, David van Wyk 154.250. So almost all of our top end drivers pacing themselves in terms of their qualifying lap times. Sean Loureiro setting a 154.7 as his fastest lap time, starting in pole, and everybody else is also pulling in amazingly fast lap times compared to their qualifying lap times. So it seems like the track is indeed evolving for the better, from 10 degrees now to 12 degrees ambient and track temp. So it is warming up slightly more, allowing the tires to get a little bit more warmth and better traction, and sucking that car down onto the asphalt. And that could potentially be playing a major difference in tonight's race. Johan Verveers, though, still putting loads of pressure on Rob van der Heever, and both of these two really starting to put pressure on the light-handedness of the situation. Currently fighting for 17th position, and both of them starting off a little bit worse towards the start of the race, but managing to keep it clean as they keep on sending it. Loureiro comes across to start off his next lap, and he'll continue to pursue it as long and hard as he can. Ron van der Walt is still sitting in second now. Actually, he's gotten the overtake on Herman Percival, so incredible job there. We didn't even notice that one, unfortunately. But Herman Percival now losing out to the likes of Ron van der Walt, and you will have to watch out, because look who's behind him. It's the man, the myth, who's got the fastest lap time, our debut driver, David van Wyk, coming in for the Pro-Am division and catching up now to the experienced legend of Herman Percival. So this could potentially be rookie versus pro, as we know it. Herman Percival been in this community for quite some time now, whereas David van Wyk, brand new to the community, brand new to the racing scene, after getting some nice bits of equipment from his fellow teammate, from his friend Johan Blichnoot, who's racing in the pro division, and now entering into the world of sim racing, doing an incredible job at it as well. Currently sitting in 4th position with the fastest lap in the Pro-Am division, and we all know that the Pro-Am drivers are not Pro-Am. These guys have immense amount of pace, and they are not slowing down for no one. As you can see, some of the cars actually bottoming out at certain parts of the track. That just shows you how much speed they're trying to push. out of all of these GT3 cars. Let's see if the Mustang does it. I know that we do have quite a big bottoming out section here at the final chicane. We see it with the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris, but will we see it with the Mustang drivers? The bigger front engine car, slightly higher off the ground, does not look like it bottoms out at all. But if you have to go to one of your slightly lower cars like Ron van der Walt, no bottom out for him as well. But we did see it earlier on in the race for the Lamborghinis. So Johnny Detroit could potentially, no, holds that inside curb very nicely. I think it's when you bounce off the inside curb onto the asphalt, that's when the rear suspension begins to porpoise and nail itself against the asphalt as hard as possible. So definitely one to look out for. But Kyle Henderson now up into 6th position, and he's really started to put a gap now behind him and Jonathan Chislett. 3 seconds almost between him and Jonathan Chislett as they continue to pursue around track. So doing an incredible job at that. But the Ferrari 296 of the Treehouse Works Racing, their new member, is really putting a good impression on for his debut outing here in the Treehouse Works Racing colors, as he sends it around track for a couple more laps, almost at sprint race territory here, like we know and love here for the Pro-Am division. It's something that I do, that once we hit our sprint race distance, we go through our grid standing again, and we officially classify this as a sprint race. It's 45 minutes of hardcore racing, hardcore focus, no time to be thinking about what happened prior, and all about thinking about what's ahead of you to come with the last 45 minutes. So that's in 6 minutes time. Get ready for that. But still, for the time being, as we check our track map to see where everybody is currently fighting, we've got the number 133 car, who is really having a good tussle with some other cars as well. That's Vessel Voda, who is now fighting with our proposed race leader of Jean Roberta. This is for position though. It's definitely not a fight of blue flag and back marker, because Jean Roberta did pull the pit strategy to do an undercut, but it does not mean he cannot fight, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Up onto the inside line now of Vessel Voda. A little bit of bumping action. They do not want to take each other out, but the door actually gets open now for Alvin Preem, who might also potentially find some form of advantage to come out of this from Vessel Voda, who's now limping slightly after the action received from Jean Roberta. A little bit further behind is Neil Swartz, who pitted extremely early on in this race, and he's now catching up with 1 pit stop left to go. Alvin Preem and Vessel Voda, both of them 2 pit stops left to go. So I think Jean Roberta knows very well indeed that the likes of Neil Swartz is coming for him, and the gap to all of these drivers is really not that much. So the likes of Neil Swartz and Jean Roberta, this is the battle for first in terms of technical perspective. After you include all pit stops to be finished, these two could potentially be fighting for the battle for first. Obviously, we know that Sean Herrera and Ron van der Walt, as well as Herman Percival, David van Beek, everyone up there also still needs to pit, and the overcut could definitely work for them, especially with running in slightly cleaner air all the way out in front for Sean Herrera. He could overcut and come out in between all of them. So we'll see how that turns out for all of them. But currently Jean Roberta patrolling around track. P10 for him now with 1 pit stop left to go. Everyone ahead of him has got 2 pit stops left. So he is the leading driver here in terms of that perspective. Anton Lammers 2/10 up on his current lap time, as he still sends it around track in 16th position. And his teammates a little bit further up in front of him. He's currently in a fight with the big Mustang of Chris Collison behind him, and Conrad Martin trying to make absolute light work of the situation at hand. 155.7 for him as his last lap. 155.3 for Chris Collison. So slightly faster lap times coming from the likes of Chris Collison. And we might potentially see an overtake coming here, as those 10s do begin to build up as the laps come down. And the gap will begin to break down into a twofold. As you can see, 4.5 tenths split Chris Collison and the likes of Conrad Martin. Then Conrad Martin 5.9 seconds away from Neil Swartz, who's trying to chase down on Alvin Preem. And now actually, as we switch to him, gets the position done up on the inside line of Alvin Preem, and he's not going to fight that too much. The Mercedes of Vessel Voda struggling through that final corner, actually losing rear traction, and now has jeopardized his speed on the straight, because here comes the Lamborghini of Neil Swartz, who could potentially make an overtake coming into the final chicane. Looks on the outside line, gets blocked off, and pulls in nicely behind the Mercedes driver. Could potentially get a better run onto our start-finish straight. So we'll be watching, all eyes on Neil Swart. Could it be a potential overtake here? Gets the rotation like the Lamborghini does have better rotation with the mid-engine form factor inside. Chasing down on the big V8 naturally aspirated in front of him of the Mercedes. What is it going to be for these two drivers? But Neil Swart is not going to make this an easy defense at all for Wesselvoda. We know Neil Swart, an extremely fast driver at hand, and trying to chase down on our potential race leader of the likes of Jean Roberta. He's trying to get past these middle races as fast as possible. We're calling them middle races as he's already done his pit stop with 1 pit stop left to go, 2 for Wesselvoda, 2 for Alvin Prim, 1 for Jean Roberta a little bit further up ahead. We're almost at about our halfway mark here for our sprint down to the line, and that'll be 45 minutes left to go. We'll have a water break shortly, but currently still watching out on the action as Wesselvoda now really starting to lose that traction, and Neil Swart is starting to gain advantage on the limping Mercedes. We could potentially see a dive coming to the next couple of corners, staying behind, tucked in nicely, not wanting to do something risky that could potentially ruin his race, but he is faster currently than the Mercedes driver. He's pulling the better corner exits. He's getting better rotation, obviously. Where is he going to overtake? The Mercedes has got better straight line speed, and someone's actually pulled off on the side of the track there. That looks like Hansi Meyerberg, and indeed that is Hansi Meyerberg. Flashing back, oh, just missing it, unfortunately. The 20-second flashback, but it looks like Hansi just not getting the traction under that McLaren and loses out slightly from that car spinning around. So super unfortunate one to see, and losing out just a little bit too much that he did not enjoy. So still going incredibly well, pushing hard as much as he can. Rian Ferri though still sitting in 8th position, and Jonathan Chislett just a little bit further in front of him, and Kyle Henderson has really started to pace away now. So Jonathan Chislett does have a further back marker behind him of Rob van der Heever. That's not Rob van der Heever, sorry, I believe that's Ulrich. It is indeed Ulrich, down in 22nd with no pit stops left to go. So that is exactly why you see Ulrich pacing in front of Jonathan Chislett. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a quick water break, and we'll see you at our 45-minute sprint mark. Alright then, ladies and gentlemen, and pulling in towards our 45-minute mark, we are declaring sprint in 2, 1, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final section of tonight's race, the last 45-minute dash to the finish line. And this is going to be an incredibly tight race as it comes toward the end here. But let's, without further ado, go through our current running grid order with 45 minutes left of racing. Sean Herrera, the number 23 Ford Mustang of the GSRT team, leads out in first position. Ron van der Walt for the number 99 Panda McLaren 720S sits in second position. Herman Purcell, the Apex Titans Racing, the FCK Cancer livery, number 44 Honda, sitting in third position. David van Bacon, the DS Neon, number 17 McLaren, sits in fourth. Jean de Toit for the Pandasti Infiltrate, number 77 Lamborghini, sits in fifth. Followed by Kyle Henderson, the Treehouse Works Racing number 15 Ferrari, sitting in 6th. Jonathan Chislett, the number 996 Lamborghini, sitting in 7th position. Rian Ferri, the Pandasti Infiltrate Furious 2, number 175 Porsche 992, sitting in 8th position. Jean Roberta, the Team Karugma Racing number 153 Porsche 992, sitting in 9th position. Followed by Wesselvoda, the Gramadulas Racing number 133 Mercedes-AMG, sitting in 10th position. Alvin Preem, the TTHR number 52 McLaren 720S, sitting in 11th, followed by number 12, the Stinger Racing number 222 Ford Mustang in 12th position. Conrad Martin, the Treehouse Works Racing number 163 McLaren, sitting in 13th position. Anton Lammers, the Treehouse Works Racing's number 149 McLaren, sitting in 14th position. Neil Swartz, the Pandasty Infiltrate number 32 Lamborghini, sitting in 15th position. Then Hansi Myberg, the Hybrid Tryhards number 526 McLaren, sitting in 16th position. Rob van der Heever, sitting in 17th position for the GSRT number 51 Ferrari 296. Johan Viviers in the number 48 Ferrari 296 in 18th position, followed by Francois Buerta, the Treehouse Works Racing's number 111 McLaren 720S, sitting in 19th position. Henk Pieterse, the Trail Bullets number 73 Ferrari 296, sitting in 20th position. And then Chiara Pretorius, the GSRT number 72 Ferrari 296, sitting in 21st. And to round it all off, the Griffin Sim Racing number 3, number 75 McLaren 720S, sitting in 22nd position of Ulrich de Jager. And that is our full grid. Unfortunately, only one driver missing, Lawrence Badenhorst of the Treehouse Works Racing's McLaren number 99 and number 28, sorry, and unfortunately is suffering a bit of a disconnect here and won't be completing this race. Super unfortunate for him there, as everybody else still sending around track. Vince, hashtag by Faith, saying go Rowan van der Walt, and Samir Bjerke saying go Chris, go. The Stingers Racing team captain over there, with the likes of Gerrit Bjerkes racing in the Pro Division and the likes of Chris Collison in the Pro-Am Division for the big yellow vehicles. Both of them rocking Mustangs this season, and it is an incredible little team to see of the Stinger Racing guys just trying to pursue and hold off the offense around this track. And Chris Collison has got a really good track record of his performance as of late, and currently still fighting in the top 10. It is looking like a good finish for him again today for the Stinger Racing to pull in a number of points once again here at Nürburgring for the RaceFace.Pro ACC GT3 Championship Season 21 Round 5. And next week, I believe we head to Kota. Let's quickly go and confirm that before we obviously go and spread a bunch of mixed information here, because we don't want to be giving drivers some false hope about Kota, Circuit of the Americas in the United States, in Austin, Texas. But that is going to be an exciting race. Kota, a track that not many people have raced before. I definitely have not raced there before in the likes of ACC, so we could potentially be seeing loads of action up and down the grid. But just quickly having a look at our races for the rest of the season. Round 1, obviously we had Donington Park, the challenging circuit. Round 2 we saw Monza, then followed by round 3 we saw Rainy Misano. Round 4 we saw the likes of Zolder, and right now we're at round 5 at the Nürburgring. Next week we head to round 6, which is the Circuit of the Americas, which, like I mentioned, Kota, and a very interesting track to watch. Then moving on to round 7 is Alton Park for round 7 of the season 21 championship. And then to finish it all off, one of my favorite circuits for this season, the Red Bull Ring, closes us off for the championship for round 8, and that is on the 26th of March to end it all off. But an incredible job so far to everybody who has put their absolute power down all the way on towards the end of the line for every single race that we've seen this season so far. It's been non-stop action up and down the grid, and still, like, we continue to push on for the remainder of this race, because we still have 39 minutes left of racing here before we see checkered flag. And currently Ron van der Walt, Herman Percival actually sit in first position, as I believe Ron van der Walt pulled into the pit lane. Indeed he did. So Herman Percival leads this race. Still 2 pit stops left to go though for him. And then followed by the likes of Ron van der Walt. David van Veek is also in. Jean de Toit is into the pit lane. That means Kyle Henderson is going to be coming around. If he doesn't pull into the pits, he doesn't. So Kyle Henderson will possibly take second place depending on where Ron van der Walt comes out. He is still in his pit lane, serving a longer pit stop right now to get that fuel in. Kyle Henderson is going to come across, taking all the way up to second position So he's going to be stoked about that one, but he will have to pull into the pit lane with 2 pit stops left still to go. Herman Purcell sitting in first place, though, still for the Honda Apex Titans Racing team. This week, rocking a green livery. Last time we saw a pink livery. And then obviously last week we saw the pitch black livery for the Ryan Ottens Memorial. But this time, swinging it right back out once again for a beautiful green livery for the Apex Titans Racing team. And we'll have to see how it keeps on pushing for all of them coming towards the end of this race. As everybody beginning to pull off all of those strategies. We now have quite a few cars with no pit stops left to go on this race. Conrad Martin all the way down to Gerrit Pretorius. Oh, Gerrit Pretorius, let's flash back on that, man. We can't not get you on camera doing that. Conrad Martin, what happened here? Touching the sand possibly. Oh, missing the braking point, completely going off the track. And thankfully no damage on that car. That's what the sand trap is for, to slow the car down enough so that it doesn't have to punt the wall to slow itself down. And Gerrit Pretorius just trying to bring it home now with 37 minutes left of racing for tonight's race at round 5 here at Nürburgring. So far it's posed as a challenge to a couple, but most have been riding the wave of Nürburgring quite well. Jean-Ray Buerta comes out of the pit lane with no pit stops left to go. He's finished all of his pit stops. Chris Collison comes out in 16th with none of his pit stops needing to be done anymore as well. Actually down to 18th, unfortunately. But most people in front now still needing to get those pit stops sorted. Jean-Ray Buerta will sit in 13th position, just behind the likes of Chris Collison, or no, Chris Collison's already gone in. Francois Buerta is in 13th, and I believe Henk Peterson 12th. And then the likes of Jean-Ray Buerta just ahead of his Porsche brother of Rian Ferry, who sits in 14th position. Everybody else, though, still doing a phenomenal job around circuit. Ulrich Diache a little bit further down, still trying to fight it out as hard as he can, trying to get past Kyle Henderson, who's now in second, but obviously Ulrich Diache, no pit stops needing to be done, does have the strategy advantage. 2 pit stops done versus no pit stops done. Kyle Henderson, 2 pit stops needing to be done, whereas Ulrich Diache has finished all of his pit stops for this race already. And with 36 minutes left of racing, he just needs to focus on the actual race now. So that's exactly what he's going to be doing coming the end of this race, and we'll see how that goes for him. But currently sitting in second position, Kyle Henderson will start to feel the pressure, because obviously he's going to have a long line of cars behind him that need to still serve, that actually won't need to serve their pit stops, and he definitely still does need to. Same with Vessel Voda, sitting in the top 5 right now, with 2 pit stops needing to be done still. And obviously posed as a threat, because loads of the drivers around him still actually only have 1 pit stop left to go. Hansi Myberg also suffered that huge spin, so that put him down to 6, but also again 2 pit stops need to be done. Alvin Preem pulls in notice for his first pit stop, and that's going to be a good one for him indeed, unless he towed back to pit lane, because I am seeing his position drop a lot. But there he comes out, and it is indeed 1 pit stop being done. So he definitely did not tow to the pit lane. He pulled it in and served one of his pit stops, which is an incredible one over there. And everybody else still serving pit stop requirements. Herman Purcell comes in now to serve his first pit stop, and that's definitely going to put a spanner in the works here for how this race is going to turn out. Kyle Henderson is quite a big margin of seconds behind the likes of Herman Purcell, but here he comes around the start-finish straight. He will be in first now, with still 2 full pit stops needing to be done. Where is Herman Purcell? There he is, and now up into first position for the likes of Kyle Henderson, and Herman Purcell is doing a longer pit stop. As you can see, Sean Loureiro is not past him just yet, but will just about come past him and will undercut the driver. Unfortunately, I believe Sean Loureiro had quite a fast first pit stop, so Sean Loureiro might have done a fast pit stop for his first and a slower pit stop for his second. We'll have to see how it does indeed turn out for him as it comes to the last 34 minutes of racing here at the Nürburgring. Henk Peterson also still down in 11th, trying to find as much traction as he can, trying to find that speed, building it up and dropping it all off like we know when the pit stop has to come. But currently all the way up from 1st to 11th, needing to serve pit stops, and then as well as Rian Ferry. So Jean-Ray Buerta, the only driver with no pit stops needing to be done inside that mainstream pack with no pit stops, whereas the rest of his opponents around him need to still pit. So he's living a lavish lifestyle right now with the undercut strategy being played. And we'll have to see how it goes for him. Last week, he pulled it, and he really did well to bring it onto the podium. Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, hugest apologies. I've been on and off slightly here, and took a short water break again, and came back and just started absolutely talking about everything and forgot to unmute the microphone. So huge apologies about that, guys. I've just been blabbering on about absolutely nothing and nobody's heard it, which is great. So yeah, but anyways, apologies about that, guys. Super sorry to leave you guys so dark down in a stream with no commentary, but we are officially back now for the last 20 minutes of racing at 7:06 a.m. on track time. The light is officially out, the track temp is officially pumping all the way up now to your all the way up to 13 degrees, and we're looking at a fastest lap time now. Sean Herrera at 1:53.9, where we were seeing in qualifying 1:54.7s, and we thought that was fast. A 1:53.9 is now fastest from Sean Herrera. So extreme sending here from the Mustang driver, trying to pull this car back to the pit lane in P1 when this race is over. Jean-Ray Buerta, we saw him also fighting hard with Ron van der Walt as he just came out the pit lane. A little bit of a tussle between the two, actually, like I mentioned, but unfortunately we were muted. They unfortunately collided a little bit coming out through the first sector, just trying to see who can get ahead and making a little bit of contact. But it looks like Jean-Ray Buerta is the one who comes out victorious for that battle, and he currently sits in third position, a little bit ahead of Ron van der Walt in fourth. David van Wyk is just a little bit further down in fifth position, still patrolling it down around in the McLaren and holding it as much as he can. And the McLaren driver just trying to find as much traction possible before the end of this race. Currently top 5 for the debut driver. No pit stops left to go, which means Sean Herrera and Johnny de Toit might potentially be under pressure here from David van Wyk, because he's got no pit stops left to go, which means he could potentially gain from the two who haven't pitted yet. But it'll all come down to the final couple of laps here, because obviously there has bin gaps built up between all the other drivers. David van Wyk almost getting a touch there from Kjeld Pretorius, who's also just trying to limp this car home. And it looks like Henk Petersen is also no longer in this race, unfortunately, and he has unfortunately also disconnected from the service. So super unfortunate to see another drop off before the end of this race. Currently Sean Herrera, like we mentioned though, sitting in first. Jean-Ray Buerta, Jean-Ray de Toit, sorry, also still one pit stop needing to be done, and just after him is the likes of Jean-Ray Buerta, who sits in third and will be bringing it home for a podium if he keeps it all nice and well coming into the final parts of this race. He's had a couple of oopsies and ahs in the past races where he's, missed pit window, and he's done a couple of things where he shouldn't have. But now this is redemption time for Jean-Ray Buerta, as he could potentially be coming across the line here to bring across a podium position here at the Nürburgring, the smaller extension of the Nordschleife, but still a monumental track at note, and one that does definitely take it out of these drivers. So we'll have to see how it goes for all of them as it comes to almost the last 15 minutes of racing here for the RaceFace.Pro ACC GT3 Championship for Season 21, Round 5 at Nürburgring. Like we mentioned, we head to Kota next week for Round 6, followed by that is Alton Park for Round 7, and then to wrap off our Season 21 is Round 8 at the Red Bull Ring, which is also going to be a phenomenal race to watch as well. Hansi Maigbo pulls into the pit lane to serve his final stop of the day. Bessel Voda, also one of the only drivers further down in the pack who needs to serve his pit stop, as well as Carl Henderson a little bit further up in 6th. And Carl Henderson was fighting with Chislett, who's down in 15th now. So this is where we could potentially be seeing the difference between the two. And could Carl Henderson potentially undercut and get well ahead of Jonathan Chislett, or will it be the opposite way around, and will he lose out to Jonathan Chislett potentially, who's now under pressure from Rian Fari? So we'll have to see how that goes for all of them indeed. But currently it is one huge gap between the likes of Jean-Ray Buerta and Jean-Ray de Toit, 41 seconds around about. But here comes Jean-Ray de Toit into the pit lane, around 100 seconds of a gap between him and Sean Herrera. So loads and loads of gap between all of them as they still come around. But Jean-Ray de Toit pulls into the pit lane now to get that pit stop serve. Where's Jean-Ray Buerta? He's coming along the final parabolic style corner now. The final corner here, Nürburgring, coming onto the back of the main straight. Where's Jean-Ray Dutoit still parked in his pit lane. And here comes Jean-Ray Buerta zooming past. Jean-Ray Dutoit just coming out of his pit lane, but not enough to get ahead of Jean-Ray Buerta. And it looks like Ron van der Walt will get ahead of his teammate as well, just by the hair of it, just getting in front of him. So the both of them now will try and catch up to Jean-Ray Buerta, now in second. And the only person ahead now is Sean Loureiro. These two are battling it out. And now this is the ultimate comparison, undercut versus overcut. Jean-Ray Buerta pulled the extreme undercut, putting at about lap 3 or 4 of this race, where Sean Loureiro is playing it all the way up until the end here. Still one full pit stop needing to be done, and he is a good 50 odd seconds ahead of Jean-Ray Dutoit. So we'll see how it's going to turn out for both of these drivers as they wrap around track for the next part. But constantly alternating times between the two of Sean Loureiro and Jean-Ray Dutoit. So it's going to be an interesting one as to who comes out on top of here. Because at the moment, according to Delta, it definitely looks like Sean Loureiro is going to come out on top and be the victor of this race. But we do not know what's going to happen until the end of this race. 13 minutes left of racing, and still one pit stop needing to be done from Loureiro. Kyle Henderson also still needs to get his pit stop done. Wessel Voda pulls in to get his final pit stop done of the session. So currently sitting in 18th position. He should get dropped down to 18th after that, down to 19th actually, down to 20th now. So coming out of the pit lane, looks like he's going to be going down to 20th from 13th due to that one pit stop. And will find himself just behind Hansi Meyerberg, who sits in 18th position and doing an incredible job at it as well. Unfortunately, if he didn't have that spin, he definitely would be high. He would have been higher up on this grid towards your 15th, 14th mark. But unfortunately, that spin did set him back, as he had to let a lot of people get past before he could rotate the car safely back onto circuit while avoiding any form of penalty, because that would have been bad if he came onto circuit and caused an incident for somebody else driving on the track. That could have been bad, but thankfully nothing happened for the number 526 McLaren, who still pursues it down further on track. Sean Loureiro, 34 laps driven here of the Nürburgring, still holding on tightly. Apologies about that, guys. Still holding on tightly with just about one pit stop left to go, but his lap times are consistently fast. Currently, last lap time 9/10 faster than Jean-Ray Dutoit. 155.9 for Jean-Ray Dutoit, 155 flat for Sean Loureiro. So he's definitely faster, but by how much? That's the question. So currently 58.9 from Sean Loureiro. What's it going to be for him? That's a full minute behind actually for the likes of Jean-Ray Buerta, and I think this might go to Sean Loureiro then, depending on what pit stop Loureiro did in the beginning, whether he did a fast splash and dash or if he did a full pit stop. This will depend on if he takes race win tonight compared to Jean-Ray Buerta, who sits in second position. And as it stands right now, the undercut has not worked for Jean-Ray Buerta. He got caught in too much traffic. He got caught in the mid-pack too much in dirty air, while Sean Loureiro got to sit all the way out in front in cleaner air. And now he is definitely gaining the advantage of that. Herman Percival, though, someone who was really fighting up there for the top spot, unfortunately dropping down to your top 10 position. And he was putting an immense amount of pressure on Sean Loureiro as well as Ron van der Walt. So unfortunately, probably experienced the spin or something somewhere, and that has really put him down in terms of pace and track position. But around about 8 or 7 positions last year from Herman Percival. Thankfully, no pit stops needing to be done. He won't lose anymore. That would be catastrophic if he had to pit. But currently, only 2 drivers left on our entire grid that need to still pit. That's Sean Loureiro, our P1 driver, and Kyle Henderson, our P6 driver, who also still holding it out on track, just trying to find as much time as he can before he needs to bring the car in. He's got 10 minutes left before the pit window. Well, there is no more pit window, but 10 minutes left before the checkered flag is thrown up, and that marks the end of our inaugural race here around the Nürburgring. And it's definitely been one to remember. Absolutely flying for most of the drivers here at the Nürburgring, and we've seen constant battles up and down the track. Sean Loureiro has proven himself worthy, though. Here he comes in to serve his pit stop. Where is it going to be for Jean-Ray Buerta? Coming across still in the hairpin section of Sector 2, only going through the Schumacher S's now. Lourero's already parking the car in just about 5 seconds. I think Lourero has overcut him by quite a margin. So into the pit stop. Is it a long pit stop or is it a short pit stop for Sean Lourero? If he comes out in the next 5 seconds, unfortunately, it is definitely not happening for Jean Roberta. He's only just on the back straight. And here comes Sean Lourero already coming out to take P1. Still sitting in the same position. An immense overcut from Sean Lourero. And a good amount of time between him and the likes of Jean Roberta, who's only coming through the final chicane now. Sean Lourero is already through to turn 1. So quite a big gap, unfortunately. It does not look like it's going to happen for the likes of Jean Roberta. And all Sean Lourero needs to do now is keep the car on track and keep it steady for the last 8 minutes of racing. 52 seconds of a gap between Jean Roberta and Sean Lourero. And that's what separates these two coming to the end of this race. My word, that's quite a gap. I'm not gonna lie. This overcut definitely worked for Lourero, especially with setting that sub 154 time. The only driver on this entire grid to set a sub 154, and those consistently fast lap times is the reason he's been able to pull such a mighty gap. And he can literally make multiple mistakes now and will still sit in first. Because with 8 minutes left of racing, there's not much you can do to stuff up your race. You can have a full-blown spin, lose about 12 to 15 seconds, and he can still go out in front with a 35 or so second gap to Jean Roberto. Because the gap between the two, actually, sorry, it's come down now after the pit stop. But still, 23 seconds is almost a whole pit stop having to wait for the driver in front to pull in and pull out. So, massive gap, massive commendation to Sean Lourero for maneuvering the Mustang around track. With 7 minutes left to go, this could potentially be a race win for him, and he's going to be super stoked about that. Our top 3, though, have been fighting absolutely hard this race for this position, and the strategies have come into play here. And as we've mentioned, it looks like the overcut was the championship contender here for this race, especially for Sean Lourero, who has made it stick. Kyle Henderson, though, in 6th, has still not come in for his final pit stop. So I'm wondering when he's going to come in, because, you know, it's been quite a while now pursuing around track, and he still has 1 pit stop left to go. So he's really going to lose out to positions here. Probably fall down towards 14th or 13th position near Jonathan Chislett and Johan Viviers. So we'll have to see where that does come out for him coming to the end of this race, because you know, it's looking really good for him right now in 6th position, but he is going to start to drop, and that is not a great one indeed. But currently doing incredibly well here for Nürburgring. 6 minutes left of racing. That accumulates to about 3 laps left almost of running, maybe about 4 depending on where Sean Lourero finishes or crosses the line, and we'll have to see how that does end up for all of them. But currently Kyle Henderson, still 1 pit stop left. He's really holding this down until the final moments of this race. Johan Viviers managing to bring it back for a top 15 finish after colliding near the start of the race. You can still see carrying the damage on the front and the sides of that Ferrari, and he's just kept it on there. You can see all the scratch marks all over the car, and not too worried about that. Most of your damage, if it's critical, will come from that massive rear wing that we see on GT3 cars, and that wing is indeed where most of your downforce is found. So if that were to go, that's exactly where the car will lose most of its speed, is on that back wing or the rear side of the car, losing most of its damage. On most setups, if you actually go and examine the setup, you'll notice that there most of the time isn't front aero added on the car. The splitters are not set to an angle in order to be an aggressive aero setup on the front end of the car. That's just purely on the base that the rear end requires the most amount of downforce to push that car and keep it nicely on circuit with that nice huge wing at the back. So that's why front side damage is not really something to worry about. You can still be relatively competitive even with 15 to 20 seconds of front end damage. The only issue when it comes is, for example, if you've got body lift, which will cause major amounts of drag or suspension damage, which will then obviously result in you having to hold your steering wheel in a slightly different angle in order to just keep the car straight. And I've actually had it before where I've had to hold the steering wheel completely 180 degrees flipped just to keep the car straight on the road. And I believe that was actually at Monza this season, season 21, which was quite a funny and embarrassing story. But we moved from it, we learned from it, and that is exactly how racing works. But currently, Jean-Ray Buerta is closing in now on Sean Lerera, but it's not going to be enough because last lap was slightly slower, about 6 or 7 tenths slower than Sean Lerera. So Sean, even after pitting and losing out a little bit of performance on his tires, you know, cooling and then reheating, is still absolutely flying around this track. Ron van der Walt is also not catching up to Jean-Ray Buerta, and Jean-Ray Dutoit not catching up to his teammate. Neil Swart, someone who we saw pitting very early on in this lap, did not get the undercut to work, and he's down into 11th position, hoping to be a little bit higher, but unfortunately not getting it. You can also see some front end damage on that Lamborghini, but not suffering from it too much at all. And here comes Sean Lerera around, so this is going to be, after this, if he can set another 153, it's going to be around about, pretty sure this is going to be second last lap. So once Sean Lerera comes across the line to finish this lap, the announcement from Jeff will come in that the leader is on the final lap. So 2 laps left of pushing here for the likes of Sean Lerera to keep it in P1. But do we have any track fights that are for position coming to the final sections of this race? The number 111 is currently in a fight. I believe that's Francois Buerta, but is it in a fight with valid drivers? He's got Alvin Prim behind him, that's valid, as well as Hunty Myberg. So this is a fight, definitely a fight that we need to watch out for. Even the number 163, Conrad Martin, and he's got Herman Percival just behind him, and Herman Percival, Chris Collison behind him, and Anton Lammers just behind him. So loads of people actually fighting it out on circuit right now. 2 very important fights that we're watching. Number 153 is also fighting right now. That's Jean-Ray Buerta, but that was just during the concertina effect. But the number 111 is absolutely feeling the pressure right now. Francois Buerta is got Alvin Prim and Hunty Myberg right on the backside of him, left and right side, covering all angles. The triple McLaren header here for 2 minutes left of racing. Yeah, there's the race leader just behind them. So they are going to have to, unfortunately, do one last lap if the race leader does not get past them on the final lap. Otherwise, they'll have to keep going for one more lap of fighting before the end of this race. And they're definitely not all going to slow down with communication to let the race leader pass, unless the race leader does get past standardly. But almost all of them actually messing up that chicane. And it looks like Hunty Myberg is going to get past Alvin Prim. Indeed, he does. So these two are going to be fighting it out now and scrapping with each other. But we also saw another fight earlier on, and I believe, there we go, the leader is officially on the final lap. So if you're in front of the leader, you'll have to do a whole nother lap once he has come across the line. So we'll have to see how that turns out for all of them. But I believe it's still Conrad Martin, indeed, Conrad and Herman, and then Chris Collison and Anton Lammers. These two, the pack of 4, are currently in a massive fight with each other, just trying to find as much gap and as much movement error to try and get around each other. But currently, Anton Lammers, with the final lap rolling in, is trying to make it all stick. Our race leader is in the midsection still, not on the Schumacher S's just yet. You can see there's the Schumacher S's on the track map just towards the bottom there. Somebody is off the track. 2 people are off the track actually just behind him. And not too sure who that might be, but that is almost actually took them out. I believe that was Hunty Myberg. That was indeed Hunty Myberg. Let's go back 30 seconds here. I believe this might have been Myberg and Alvin Prim, or the likes of Carl Henderson. So Hunty pulls up to the outside line, gets pushed out completely, and both of them off the track from that incident. Oh, and a collision on the sand. So unfortunate there. Carl Henderson trying to block off Hunty Myberg, and just not getting it successfully done, and getting a little bit elbows out and aggressive on the grass ends of the track. And Hunty Myberg manages to recover, but has lost out. And now Sean Lerera, not too sure why the announcement came again to let him know he's on the final lap. We already knew he's on the final lap, but our race time is officially out. The white flag is out to say that this is it Once the leader crosses the line, that is checkered flag. So if you're behind the leader, congratulations, it is a race over, because here he comes, Sean Loureiro, the powerhouse of the Nürburgring in the big Mustang, almost a 30-second gap to second place, and Sean Loureiro GSRT take first position for round 5 of the RaceFace.Pro ACC GT3 Championship for season 21, round 5. Jean-Ray Berta coming across still onto the final corner now. You can see the sheer gap that Sean Loureiro had to the other drivers, and now getting past each other. Jean-Ray Berta comes across the line to finish it off strong in second. Ron van der Walt in third. Janner de Toit in fourth. David van Beek will come across to start fifth, finish fifth. And that's exactly what we like to see. Consistency, consistency, consistency. Coming across in fifth position. Conrad Martin fighting it out all the way to the end with Herman Percival. And Herman looking to try and see if he can get a dive bomb into the final sector. But not going to happen. Conrad Martin takes sixth. Herman Percival takes seventh position. Anton Lammers will come across to take eighth. And Neil Swartz closing in behind. Just not enough. Chris Collison a little bit further behind as well in 10th. Johan Verveers will come across in 11th position. The Ferrari driver will do an incredible job to bring it up just in the top 15. Jonathan Chislett in 12th position. And speaking about him and Kyle Henderson he finished extremely low down, unfortunately, so Jonathan Chislett undercut him very well so. But finishing off in 12th position, the lucky number 12. Incredible job there from Jonathan Chislett. Ran Faria a little bit further on behind him. And Rob van der Heever will also come across in 14th. Ulrich de Jager in 15th position to finish off strong. Francois Buerta in 16th. And the final driver on grid here for tonight's race, who was just sitting in front of our race leader, is Alvin Preem, who had to do one more lap because he had just started his final lap ahead of the race leader. So thankfully not getting lapped just yet, but having to complete one more lap. And that is officially it for tonight's race. An absolutely incredible showdown of note, and absolutely incredible. And just pulling it on for the final time of year for Nürburgring, it has been one of note 100%. Absolutely incredible. We're going to have a look to see if we do have anybody ready for interviews. If not, though, we will call it a night, as it has been a nice long night of racing. Let's go and have a look while we pull up our replay here for tonight's race. Tonight, extremely action-packed race. And a couple of people coming in to the virtual grandstand. Vince, hashtag by faith. Well done, Rowan. You can do it, brother. And Herman Percival, one of our competitors, saying, I did double tires. I didn't untick it. That is super unfortunate. So Herman Percival, that's exactly why he lost out, because he put on 2 new sets of tires for both his pit stops, when he probably could have sat on one change for the entire race. So that makes sense why he dropped so far down. Really unfortunate there, but thankfully it wasn't due to some form of error or penalty. Thankfully it was just due to some driver error, but congratulations still. You've done an incredible job nonetheless. So still just waiting for a couple of our drivers in our virtual grandstand. We do have P1 and P3, just waiting to see if P2 is going to join us, and P2 has indeed joined us. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's pull in for starting off our end of race interviews with our P3 coming off strong, fighting off all the way till the end and almost losing it with second place towards the end of the race. Ron van der Walt coming across in third position. How was that race?
How's it, firstly? Yeah, look, it was lekker. Obviously a stupid mistake like last week. Didn't practice the pits and then nearly cost me more than 2 positions. So, yeah.
And
it was fun.
And how scary was it that I saw as soon as you came out the pit lane, Jean-Ray Berta gets the jump and both of you squabble, almost taking each other out. What was going through your mind there?
Obviously racing instinct. Trying to close the door, trying to get a better exit, but him driving the Porsche, it's a bit difficult. It's too quick out the blocks to take him, especially in Sector 1. You can't really do anything there.
Yeah,
yeah, I had some front end damage because I drove into the pit wall like a total buffoon. But anyway, yeah, did
unfortunately.
that. Yeah, it happens.
Okay, so a couple of small mistakes coming in, but nonetheless, you still managed to smash a podium, which is incredible. You fought all the way from the start to the end, so it was well deserved. And next week we head to a track we haven't raced in a long time here at RaceFace. So next week we head to COTA, the Circuit of the Americas. How are you feeling racing at that circuit?
A little bit sketchy because it's my first time driving the McLaren in RaceFace. So the last time I drove to COTA was with the BMW, and that was quite scary, especially that first sector through the SSD. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I think with the McLaren, I think you're gonna have a little bit of mechanical downforce assistance. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
all we can do is wait and see how it's going to go. You did a great job at keeping the car under control, so now it's all down to practice and seeing if you can put in the same result for next week. But I'm going to give you the microphone to chat about anything, chat about your team, chat about any of your potential sponsors, and you may have at it.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Look, thanks to Infiltrate, one of our sponsors, and then obviously to the coaching staff at Mendacity, they're really good, and yeah, thanks to them as well. Obviously, we've been coming a long time, so finally getting there, I suppose. But yeah, much appreciated, and thanks to you guys at RaceFace and yourself for commentating and streaming and all that. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, have a fantastic night of celebrations with the team. You've definitely earned it. See you next week at Circuit of the Americas.
Thank you, sir. Cheers, man.
Cheers, cheers. Alright, so that was our third place finisher. Moving over to our second place, who was first place, and then decided to pull the massive undercut strategy like we always see him do. Don't know if it worked out from him tonight, but it definitely still pulled him off into the podium positions. P2, ladies and gentlemen, Jean-Ray Buerta, how are you feeling after that race?
Hi, good evening, Tristan. Sweating a lot, but yeah, the undercut strategy didn't work. I thought that it's gonna work because I didn't want to lose too much time to Sean, but the man has got some insane pace and he had some very good race management. I got stuck in traffic, but yeah, at the end there it was quite sketchy with Ruan coming out of the pits. But again, GG's to him, good race from him as well. We had some nice, door-to-door, almost British touring car, little argy-bargy, but that was fun.
Absolutely. So, was it the pressure you were receiving from Sean Lorera that made you dive into the pit, or was it a routine plan?
I think it's a bit of both, but typically I do like the undercut racing in fresh air and then, get the fighting at the end of the race. There's no use fighting in the beginning of the race, then you just lose too much race time, and then you end up losing positions. So
Absolutely. And after the undercut, how was the mid-pack squabble? Were you getting stuck a little bit behind some of the mid-pack runners?
yeah, there was a bit of traffic. Got by a few of them quite quickly, and some of them real gentlemen on the track. I have to say, some of them have got some insanely good racecraft and awareness around the track. And then, yeah, sometimes you get stuck behind someone, but that's racing, and it was for position, so I can't complain.
No, that is definitely true. Well, you still, despite pulling the strategy that didn't work, unfortunately, and trying to squabble through mid-pack, you managed to pull it around, finish off in P2, trying to fight the Mustang up in front, and you've done an incredible job at it as well. So next week, we head to a circuit that we have not raced for quite a long time here at RaceFace.Pro. Next week, we head to Circuit of the Americas, or COTA for short. How are you feeling for COTA next week?
COTA is typically a good Porsche track, so I'm quite confident on that one. But yeah, I don't spend as much time practicing as some of the other guys, so I really have to, get the foot down on Thursday evenings. So.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we wish you the best of luck for the practice for next week's race. I'm going to give you the microphone and the floor to address anything of your liking, anything about your team, any potential sponsors, and you may have at it.
Thanks, Tristan. Just firstly, I just want to give all glory and honor to the great God and Savior, my Savior Jesus Christ, and just a shout out to the team. The team have taken an off season. I'm the only representative for Karifma Racing, but yeah, just keeping the name high.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, only member of the team, still pulling the flag up and grabbing a couple of trophies while you're at it. You've done a phenomenal phenomenal race experience here tonight. We look forward to watching you do at Kota next week as a, like you mentioned, a Porsche-focused track where you can try and pull those performance marks. But it's been an incredible night. We'll see you next week. Go and have a great night of celebrations, and see you next week at Kota.
Thank you very much, Tristan, and once again, great commentary. We really appreciate you streaming the Pro-Am races.
Absolutely. Have a good night. Cheers.
Cheers.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so that was our interviews with our third and second finishers. But without further ado, it is time to end off our night. Pull in the man who did it, the man who built up over 40 to 50 seconds of a gap all the way up until the end of the race. The comeback king is no longer the comeback king. He's now the sitting in P1 and not doing anything king. Sean Loureiro comes across strong in P1 for tonight's race at Nürburgring. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's about time I didn't have to pull out the comeback king, hey?
No, it's been a while, hey?
No, it was pretty good for an arrive and drive with the setup just before quali. It was pretty good. You never know what to expect with this Mustang. It's either really good or really bad. So yeah, it turns out this track is pretty good. The straight line speed. In the opening laps, we had a bit of some good argy-bargy. And then yeah, given some clean air. So I just put my head down and try to stay out of traffic is actually the main thing. But I must say the blue flags and that sort of stuff this race was epic. So well done to everyone on track. It was pretty good.
Absolutely incredible. So what was going through your mind there where you were obviously sitting behind the Porsche? The Porsche obviously of Jean-Ray Buerta got a little bit of a better jump on the Mustang there on the start-finish straight. But how were you feeling when you just saw the Porsche pull in? Like you mentioned, you got that clean air and you just sent it.
Well, up until that point, I was actually starting to coast a bit because the pace was a little bit better. So in a way, it meant I had to get the hammer down. So it's a, plus you win some, you lose some on that one. So I just got the head down and just try to keep those tires alive. But no, it's the Mustang, man. It's good fun.
No, it is definitely good fun. It's a wild and courageous car, that of indeed, and it seems to have pulled all the moves yet tonight. And you've done a phenomenal job at managing that car, like you mentioned. It's either good or it's terrible, but it looks like tonight it pulled the right card. So next week, we head to a track that has not been on the calendar for a while, and it is the Circuit of the Americas, or COTA for short. How are you feeling, especially with carrying the V8 American Muscle Beast into the American territory next week?
The only positives I can see about that track are the straights. So I'm going to use the straights to get in front and then just park it on the apex.
There's one more advantage. You're in the car, just pull your window down and just start screaming like an eagle. You'll get like 15 extra horsepower. You're
maybe
in the right country. So
yeah, I need a special livery maybe.
You've got to make one.
We'll do a bald eagle special once
Yeah.
off.
No, if you do that, I will mention it. 100%.
I'll see what we can do.
You got, no, that's an expectation now. It's not what we'll see. You have to.
No, I said we'll see.
Okay. I'm betting on it. But other than that, incredible performance once again. Like I mentioned tonight, sitting in first position, absolutely no worry in the world there in the front. And you have had a phenomenal night. I'm going to give you the floor to mention any thing that you would like to mention, possibly anything from your team, anything from potential sponsors, and you may have the floor.
I just want to say, thanks to RaceFace and their ongoing support to the local SA sim races, and all the boys in these, and ladies, let me just clarify that. The racing really has got so much better. You can just see everyone's getting better. So well done to everyone. Let's keep having some argy-bargies and keep it nice and clean.
Absolutely incredible. Well, go and have a great night of celebrations. Enjoy that P1 trophy, and we'll see you next week at the Circuit of the Americas.
Oh yes, and one more thing. Thank you to you, sir. Your streams are epic.
I
Keep them going.
it. Thank you very much.
Cheers, man.
Have a good one. Cheers. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, and without further ado, David van Veek saying GG's, guys. Absolutely incredible race from him as well. Topping it off in top 5, sitting consistently throughout the track. But it has been a night of note, being an incredible race here at Nürburgring, and definitely one where drivers did not stoop down. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tristan Herbst, and it's been a pleasure commentating this race for you guys. If you did enjoy this, please remember to leave a like, comment anything of your liking, and also leave a subscribe for RaceFace.Pro if you're interested in our future streams. We do have round 6 coming up next week, as well as some iRacing weekly fun like we usually have. So keep an eye out for that on our social media channels as well as our YouTube channel. But it has been an incredible night. Next week, like we mentioned, we head to Kota, and then we're already around about 2 races left from the end of our season. So we have Kota, we move over to Alton Park, and then we finish off with Red Bull Ring to close off season 21. And that marks the closing of season 21, which has been a phenomenal season, but it's gone extremely fast. So thank you once again, everybody. Cheers, Herman Percival. Once again, amazing performance from you as well tonight. It's been a pleasure to everybody who joined us in the virtual grandstand. I hope you had a phenomenal night of action-packed racing, and we'll see you guys next week for the next round. But like always, good morning, good afternoon, good night, and good evening, everyone. Have a fantastic night, and we'll see you next week.